Now, it's Lunchtime with Ira, live from the Las Vegas Hilton.
My next guest is Elvis' friend and bodyguard Sonny West. He's author of the new book, Elvis Still Taking Care of Business. Sonny was Elvis' close friend, trusted confidant and bodyguard. He, for 16 years, as a matter of fact, and although you're semi-retired, right, Sonny?
Yes.
He occasionally performs an hour-long show around the world called Elvis Close Up and Personal, or Up Close and Personal.
Right.
And you reside in Tennessee.
Yes, right outside of Nashville, Hendersonville.
Is that close to Johnny Cash's
yes, it was. Matter of
cabin
fact,
where the fire
it just
or the
burned.
house?
Yeah. There's a lot of stories about that whole little area there. Roy Orbison's home was next door, and it burned down. He lost 2 children back in the 80s, so...
Maybe you ought to move to Southern Nevada.
Well, I'm okay. I'm not in that area.
All right. Now, this is, I'm going to show the book here, which is your second book on Elvis.
Yes, sir.
And the first book was, I guess people had said that it was a little harsh on Elvis, and you decided to write a second book. What was the decision to write a second book on Elvis?
Well, I couldn't let Elvis, what happened was written as a challenge to him to try to show him where he was headed, because we saw it happening the last couple of years, and we started approaching him about it, and it irritated him, told us to stay out of it. It's none of our business. And if we didn't stay out of it, we'd be looking for other jobs. And it was more important for us to do, Red and I especially, to do what we needed to do to help this man that we love so much.
There was a discussion, though, about, and I have talked to both Jerry Schilling and also Lorena as well, the Colonel's wife.
Luann, I love her.
Luann, excuse me, yes.
Yeah.
And both of them talked about the dynamics between Elvis and the Colonel, and everybody thought that the Colonel ran everything, but Elvis was pretty strong-willed.
Let me tell you something. Colonel Parker did what Elvis wanted, and the Colonel has taken more. He's the most maligned man I've ever seen. Because I was with him. I went with him in the advance team. I set the security up with him. He taught me everything about security on the road. So I spent a lot of time with him. I was a day ahead of Elvis, getting everything set up for him to come in. And I got to know this man very well. And the thing with Barbara Streisand, that wasn't true. See, Jerry was in on the meeting, Jerry Schilling with Joe Esposito and John Peters and Barbara in that section of the dressing room while the rest of us were out there. But Jerry wasn't working for Elvis at the time. So the next day after Elvis had told Barbara, yeah, I think I really like to do this.
To do what, though?
A Star is Born.
Okay.
Yeah. So Jerry left. Well, if he hadn't, he would have known, because he knew Elvis well enough too, that when Elvis started picking at something, something's bubbling there, something's going to happen. And he started trying to make little comments about working with Barbara and about her hairdresser boyfriend. And Red and I looked at each other and said, he's not, because we were so excited he was going to do it. We thought this might start him back and let him have a break from just touring. And we knew that he wasn't going to do it, and he just told Colonel to get him out of it. So Barbara said that Elvis said he's going to do it, and then, of course, when the Colonel went for the deal, she blamed the Colonel. The Colonel wanted too much. Colonel didn't want too much. He wanted what Elvis wanted him to do. And that's just the way it was. Everyone blames him, and he always kept his mouth shut. He never said, hey, that was Elvis' decision. He just took the heat, you know? So...
The challenge for Elvis is that he's larger than life, or was larger than life. He's obviously larger than life even now, selling. He started at the Hilton, it was the International then in 1969. Right. Performed a lot of shows, and it was over a period of time where he would work 2 shows a night. Mm-hmm. And that's almost unheard of today in most of the entertainment venues.
Yeah, he did 2 shows a night for, I think, the first 3 years. And I know once or twice we did a special show for the people on the Strip to come to, like at 2 o'clock in the morning, so they could come see him and everything. But it really did wear him out, and we did it twice a year. But the rest of the time he would go out on tour for 2 or 3 weeks, be off for 2 or 3 weeks, so it worked okay. But he just... Elvis just kind of got a little bit apathetic. He just kind of got in a groove there with the singing. He loved performing, but in between he got where he didn't care that much. We used to play football, work out karate, and these things just kind of slipped away. And that last year, when Red and I were gone, there was no old school left. There was no one there that he could sit there. They were all younger guys or new guys that didn't go back to the 50s and the 60s. Joe did, and Jerry and them did, but they lived in California. After the tour, they're gone. There's no one in Memphis.
And how did they come up with that term, the Memphis Mafia?
I'm not sure. I do know that I know why, because we pull up in a couple of limousines, black limousines, going into the shows here, and we'd get out with our black suits and ties, mohair suits, and the dark glasses. And someone said, "Who is that, the Mafia?" And someone said, "Yeah, the Memphis Mafia." And I don't know if that got to a columnist or something. I feel, and I could be wrong, that James Bacon,
the columnist
in L.A., who was very close with Sinatra, and I think he
James
gave
Bacon.
I think he gave them the Rat Pack. I think he coined that phrase, and he may have done this because he liked to, as you know, columnists like to come up with something like that. So I can't give it to him, but I think it might have been him.
Now, the title of your book is Still Taking Care of Business, and you have photos in your book as well as obviously a narrative. Right. How did you decide on that title? Does it imply, at least I got that inference, that even with him being gone, he's bigger than ever? I mean, you have the songs are selling, and there's merchandising, and he just seems to, the revenue for post Elvis is higher than it was while Elvis was alive.
It's a combination of that, because he is, he's huge icon, worldwide. He's just huge. Missionaries talk about, they go into the deepest part of the jungles in those little mud huts and stuff, and many of them have a picture of Elvis on the wall, and that's the only picture they got in there. So they come back and say that. But anyway, and the other thing is, I want him to know that I am still taking care of business, Elvis. I'm still taking care. I want to do what I can to keep your legacy going and let fans know what a fascinating, wonderful guy you were, and that I go out and speak to schools. I used to go to high schools, junior, now I'm down to middle schools, talking about addictive natures. Be careful. You don't know. You're too young. None of them can tell me in the grade schools what addictive means. And I said, that's because you're too young. Could I ask many of you know if it means what it means?
Is it related, though? Addiction is not necessarily related to talent. In other words, you can be an addictive personality without having the talent that Elvis had.
Yes.
So he had a combination of things going on. He had obviously the talent. He had the iconic stature for decades, and that has to have an impact on your mentality too. It's not as if you were a big name for a year or two and then that's it. You're a big name for decades. I think of people like Sinatra that was on the top for several decades, and that's got to have an impact on your psyche in some way as a human being. Because
it does, and it did with him. But one thing about it, he was happy being Elvis Presley. He wasn't the lonely, it's up here at the top. He said many times, hey, this is not a point up at the top. That's not a point. It's a big flat area, and anyone that works hard and got talent can get right up there. So he said, while I'm there, I'm going to enjoy it. Who knows when I might start down.